So today I am showing you how to install these DIY ground mount solar panel racks from Powerfield Energy. And if you are interested in these, check them out at DIYgroundmount.com, where you can get a discount going through that link as well. So in a nutshell, what these are these are very inexpensive DIY, so you can do it yourself, ground mount racks that require no drilling in the ground. Basically, you can just add weight, rocks, gravel into these, and that's what holds them down. So if you're in an area like me where you have solid bedrock, don't need to worry about it. These can install very easily, very quickly, and that's what I'm going to show you in this video. Now, I do have another video on my channel where I went over the details, all the specs on these things, the pros, the cost. So at the end of this video, I'll leave a card with a link to that video, or you can go into the description and watch that. But I'm not going to go into all those details in this video since I already did that. I want to focus on the install and how to do it. So let's get to it. So to install these, if you want to use one per panel, you're going to need to level the ground pretty good. So there's a straight line across. Even if it slopes down, that's fine. It just has to be level, or I'll show you when you put the panels, try to slide them together, they're going to be off and you'll have to do a little bit of maneuvering with dirt, but no big deal. It saves you a lot of money. So the time and your labor is worth it to do that. And all I'm using is a shovel and a rake here to try and level it out. So each of these racks have holes in the bottom of them, basically weep holes. So if moisture gets in there, it can run out. Obviously you don't get mold inside this. And it's best to lay about a couple inches of gravel. What we're going to do is lay a couple inches of gravel, and then we've got a bunch of boulders on our property here, rocks. So we're just going to put the rest of rocks, or a bunch of rocks inside it to weigh it down enough to handle the wind load, which I will get a diagram to know exactly how much. So we just went to the rock yard and got 2 yards of gravel. I think that's way overkill probably for what we need since we're putting boulders in there, and that is for about 12 of these racks actually we'll be using to install our 10 panels. All right, so we're about to put this first panel on, and one thing you're going to want to know is how wide your panel is. So this one is 41 inches wide, so it's going to require these extensions on the top, which are right here. So these are the extensions. Go and show me how to put that on there, Dale. So those slide right on. They clip right from the bottom there underneath. You slide them in there and they'll lock in place. You'll feel it lock in place. It's that simple. And you'll do 4 of these. So 1, 2, and then on the next one in line, 3 and 4. So your panel literally will slide, the edge of the panel will slide right underneath here, and we'll do a demonstration of that. And then at the bottom, you've also got these clips that are going to hold the panel, which slide in just like this. And then there's a little pin that locks it in place. So once your panel's on there, that's it. And that's all this thing takes. You'll put 4 of those things all the way across. And it is that simple. And you'll see here what we did. I put about a 2-inch layer of gravel down and then just added boulders because that's what I have on site on my property here. So cheap and easy way to do it. You're going to want to check with Powerfield Energy. They can give you a diagram on their website of how much of a wind load you're going to have in your area of the country, and then they'll recommend the weight. And then based on these little lines you see across, if you fill gravel up there, they show you exactly how many pounds that is. And one last thing I want to mention is I also have some smaller panels. These ones that are up here on my other racks, these are 39¼ inches wide. And for those, you do not use these clips. So remember this panel here, I'm going to need them. It's 41 inches wide. And all you care about is the width here. So make sure before you buy your solar panels, you know that the width can fit on these. Because if you go too small, they won't fit. And if you go too large, they won't fit. I was going to buy some Canadian solar panels and they were too large or too wide. So before you buy your panels, that is the #1 thing to do, is make sure the width fits, and go to Powerfield Energy's website and you'll be able to see that right there. But that's it for now. Let's go ahead and slap these things on there. So we just slid the first panel on here, and it is very easy. Just set it up there and you'll feel it slide right under the lip on these clips. And you'll see I'm right up against the edge of the plastic there, right up against the edge. And then you put these bottom clips on, which are these things. They just slide right in, and you'll feel them clip underneath the lip of the solar panel. And that's what holds them in place. And then you put this little locking pin inside it, which is this little thing here.
Just angle it downward, push it in, and you'll hear it snap. Bang. There you go. Then you can lift on the panel, and it ain't going anywhere. It is locked down. And that's as simple as it is to mount one of these things. All right, so we got one panel mounted. As you can see, it takes 2 of these racks for the first panel, and then it takes 1 each. Now the next panel is going to butt up against that one and cover half of this one right here. And then it's just 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 all the way down till the end. So we're going to do a row of 5 panels, so it's going to take 6 of these racks. And then we're going to do another row of 5 panels, which will take another 6. So we'll be mounting 10 panels and using 12 of these racks to do it. So if you start to put these panels on, you noticed they're kind of a little wavy. Well, what we're doing here is we're laying just a couple bucket loads, a Home Depot bucket there, this gravel down to bring them up just a hair so they line up. You definitely, if you're using 1 per panel, you'll need to level them out pretty well. So the gravel comes in really handy, and you could just put gravel underneath it rather than leveling the whole area out, which will save you a ton of cash. So in my low wind area, we're just using 1 5-gallon bucket of gravel, about 3/4 inch gravel, and putting it in the bottom here. I'd say it's about 50 pounds of gravel, and then we just added boulders from the property, so I'd say there's another probably 50 pounds. So we're probably loading it down with 100 pounds, but we are in a low wind area, so you might be different. So make sure you check your diagram. And now that we're at the end here, so the last rack is going to be a little closer to the end, because what we were doing here is we were straddling them right in the middle, and in the middle. But the last one you don't want in the middle, obviously. You want it more like this one where it's hanging off the back edge right here. So that's what we're doing. So it's going to be sitting right here. We use this gravel for a bed. It really helps if you have a decline like we do in the lay of the land. So I would definitely have some gravel on hand just to be able to just maneuver it a little bit, an inch here, an inch there. So made our job a lot easier on this. So we have all of the panels installed, and we were so excited to get them installed that we forgot about connecting the wires, the positive and negative cables, as we were doing it. So the problem is that wire down there is going to go into the ground and go across to connect in series to the other row. But this one needs to connect to this panel over here. So we need to pull this wire through their little wiring area they have here and connect them. And the other wire is over here. So we need to pull that one through, which means our connection needs to happen inside this. So learn from our mistake and make sure you're connecting the wires as you go. So you can technically separate these wires a bit right here, or these panels. Leave about a foot gap, connect the wires, and then slide them over. So learn from our mistake and save yourself a half hour or an hour of work. So here we are at the first panel in the series. And what we're going to have to do is, this is going to be our main positive connection going all the way back to our Bluetti inverter. And the negative wire down here is going to go through underneath here. There's actually a little wire slot for it. And we're going to take that and connect this negative to the positive on the next panel. And then all the way down the row, as you can see here to the right, we're going to go positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative in series connection all the way to the end. And then we're going to loop to the next row and go back all the way to the final negative connection. So let's go ahead and do it. So this negative is going through here. And right here, as you can see, it's going to connect to the positive. So we'll snap that together. All right, we're all set. Now we can put the solar panel back down in the slot. And if you look right here, the lip of the solar panel slides right in underneath, and it'll slide right into place. Just like that. So you can see underneath here, that positive connects to the negative inside actually the rack, which is a really neat way they designed this. So we'll pull the wire actually up into, they have this little slot right here where the wire will stay inside, even though it doesn't really get pinched down, because you can see there's about an inch of clearance between the solar panel and the rack. And then we'll take this negative and we'll do the same thing with the next panel. It's that simple. So now we made the positive and negative series connection all the way to the end here, where we pulled the panel off to make it easier to do these connections. And because we're at the end, we've got two long rows here of 10. And we're doing a series connection, which means the positive is going to be hanging out to connect to the blue eddy, and negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. Now we're going to send the negative from this panel, which is going to be set right here. We're going to put that in this little 3/4 inch conduit with a number 6 bare copper ground wire that's going to be able to ground all these panels and then swing underneath and over and connect there. We'll lay the ground wire right on the edge of the panel, which I will video that how we're doing it. And we got to send the solar panel wire. Again, the negative is going to go down into this conduit here, into this trench, and then pop up right here and connect to this positive. And we can do a series connection here because these 10 panels total up to 490 volts altogether, and the blue eddy can handle, let's see, 550 volts. So I wouldn't want to go anywhere above 500. I'd like to have a little bit of a buffer there so we don't ever push the blue eddy to its peak. So just a quick video on how we did these little base pads for these racks. Some of these, if your ground's pretty level, you'll notice we didn't put really any gravel except for right in the front just to help level it off a little bit. This one we used a lot more, so you can use gravel to do these, and you'll see we used a lot more because it was a lot less level right there. And actually, you don't even really need to get them level. You really just need to get them in a straight line going down. And I would say on these 10 panels, we only used a total of about, I don't know, 1/4 yard of gravel, and maybe even, I mean, max a half. I think you'd have extra doing 10 of these on the type of ground we have here. So our ground's not great, as you can tell, but we made it work. So if you want to be safe, I mean, grab a yard if you want. If your ground's pretty unlevel, if you're doing 10 of these, at least the way I have them, where really like each panel shares one of these racks. All right, so here's the little conduit. We use 3/4 inch. It's the gray PVC rated for electrical. And how that's going to work is that's going to go up right there. The wire will drop in from the solar panel there, and it will drop in from that solar panel there. And we'll also have the ground wire connected right to the edge of the panel here. And then we'll do that also on the far side down there where we have to bring over the positive connection. So the positive and negatives, or the negative connection. So the positive and negative both land on that end, and then we will send that all the way back to the blue eddy. So what we are doing now is we are laying this conduit in the ground. It's going to go across to connect these 2 solar panels together, and we'll run a ground wire through it as well. This is a number 6 bare copper wire. That's code for grounding solar panels. We pulled most of that through because we were running this all the way down, and we're going to connect the far end to this panel right here, and then run it all the way back down to the other side on this side as well, and go all the way back, and it will terminate right here. And then we are going to decide how we're going to ground it, whether we're going to send it back to the ground for the house, or we're going to put our own ground rod in somewhere around here. We'll have to see on that one. So now we're grounding the panels. Yep, so we're using one of these little lugs with a roofing screw that I'll show you. And that's how it's done. And we'll attach the ground wire here right to it. And you see we already grounded one end over there. We're just going to keep doing that for the rest of the panels. We are using these Tech 5 roofing screws that we're pulling off the washer when we put on the actual wire, because we don't want rubber between that connection. So all right, so we connected our first panel here and grounded it. I am putting the next one on. So what you do here is, I'll leave a link to these little grounding lugs I got on Amazon, but very simple. You just need a flathead screwdriver. Loosen this up. Once you get it a few turns, you can do the rest by hand. Once you have it gapped open enough, take your copper wire, slide your copper wire in that gap, pin it down, and screw it back in place. Do that for the rest of your panels all the way down. All right, so on our bottom row, we got the wire for the grounding all in place. It drops right here into this little conduit with our 10 gauge solar panel wire. Goes underground through that conduit that you saw. Pops up. I'll cut off that red wire there, put an end on it, an MC4 connector, and we'll connect it to this panel that's leaning up here so we still have access to the wires. And then as you can see, the ground wire pops up right here, and we'll actually strap it to the solar panel here, here and then run it all the way down to our far end here. So we have one continuous loop with the grounding wire. And then we will terminate down here with where our positive and negative from this whole string of 10 panels will end up. And then we'll send it from here back to our Bluetti EP800 inverter. All right, so we're here at the end where we're looping across our solar panel wire and ground, and I need to make an MC4 connector so I can connect this positive to this, which I'll have to make up an MC4 connector that is a negative. And I do have a video on my channel. Just search my channel and search MC4 connector, and you will find a video on how to do this connection. And then I'll need to put another MC4 connector where I'll cut this wire off on top and make one there.
So we are just about all finished with this install here, and wanted to review how we changed the wiring a little bit. Originally, I was going to wire these in just one long series connection and not do any paralleling. Well, I ended up paralleling because the Bluetti is 500 volts max on each charge controller rather than the 550 that I assumed originally. So we broke this into each row is series, but then they both parallel together and then go back to the Bluetti number 2 charge controller. So here is how it finished up. So originally you saw the ground wire. So we started the ground wire here. It runs across the top of all of these, loops underneath the ground here, attaches again back to the top of that panel right there, and then runs on the top of the panel all the way back to our box that we have here. And this is the ground wire. Actually, we have it wrapped up right here, so we're not quite sure if we're going to put a ground rod in right here or just leave it on this THHN green wire here that goes back to the house ground. Not sure yet, but that's why we're not totally finished with this, but it is up and running and working. So each of these rack of 5 solar panels should be producing about 246 volts at optimum sun and temperature. And as you can see, it's sunny, but it is winter time here. It's in January, and it is later in the day here. So let's do a test and see what 5 of these, well, they're connected in parallel. So actually even 10 of them are only going to produce at max about 246 volts. And I've got my little meter on here, the Tessman TM5-10 meter. So I'm going to put these leads on there and see what we get. There we go. We're getting about 204 volts. And what's cool about this meter is it automatically detects. You don't have to set it to DC or AC. It just automatically detects it. It's like a smart meter. And this meter's only 15 or 16 bucks on Amazon. So unreal how inexpensive it is. So if you're looking for an inexpensive way to be able to test DC voltage, AC voltage, definitely pick this thing up. I'll have a link in the description to it. It's the Tessman TM510. Comes with Duracell batteries. I don't even know how they can only charge 16 bucks for this thing, but anyway, get it while they have it that cheap. But we're producing about 205 volts. That's pretty solid right now for this time of year. So I am happy with the way this thing turned out. So now let's review how we did the wiring. So we've got the negative cable here on this panel, goes down into the ground, into the conduit, and runs up underneath and pops up into right here and connects to this little Y. You see it connects out of the ground right there into this Y. And then the negative from the other string, this row of solar panels right here, the negative for those connects to this, and the 2 go into this box and connect right into the top, the black negative on that breaker there. And then the positive on this panel goes positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, all the way across. And the positive connects to the one in the ground right here, which is right here. Comes back underneath, under the ground of that conduit you saw. Pops up out of the ground right here. And then runs all the way back to our box over there. And that's the positive connection. And then these also loop positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. And then the last negative right here goes all the way back into this box right here. And then we just have a temporary cable for now that you see here that goes back to the Bluetti inverter and runs this whole thing. So as you can see, these solar panel racks are very easy to use. I highly recommend them. So check out DIYgroundmount.com. and I can get you a discount on these if you submit a quote through that link. And as a reminder, I have a video going into the details, the pros of these, how easy they are, just all the details, the specs, snow loads, all that. So I'll put a card at the end of this video so you can check out that as well. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, like this video, as it does really help. Thanks, everyone.